What about you?
I don't know. Skip.
What do you mean skip?
I've thought of one. I think it's dumb when men are intimidated, like if their girlfriend or prospective partner out-earns them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I literally think that the majority of that, in almost all instances, unless someone can think of an example, is going to trace back to insecurity and like.
I mean, if he's conscious about it, yeah, that's pretty insecure. I mean, if you're like consciously saying like, I don't want to date a woman that makes more than me.
Well, I wouldn't say it's insecure. I'd say that's just his innate instinct to want to provide for his woman, and it's emasculating him.
Just let her finish.
It's emasculating to feel like you're not being the one providing for her. I wouldn't say that's a wrong thing to do. Is want to make
like,
more.
Because I'm like even if it was just a little bit more, and he's still like saying like, no, I have to be the breadwinner. Totally, like the fact that you make $3,000 a year more than me is like a no. It's like a no-go. That's messed up to me.
It's not clear if it's because of intimidation. I don't think men are intimidated by women who are successful or by women who make a lot of money.
My ex
if they're not willing to date them just because they make too. Well, what is it about then?
My ex was definitely.
It's typically more so. It's less about the actual money and more about like perhaps if you become hyper successful in business, that typically means cultivating certain personality traits that may not necessarily be conducive in a relationship. Like for example, a woman who's a lawyer, which I think. Good for you. Fantastic. However, in order to be a lawyer, you're probably going to be someone who's temperamentally disagreeable. You have to be disagreeable. You're probably going to be a bit more in your masculine. You're going to be to some degree argumentative. And I don't think that certainly, I mean, look, certainly a male lawyer can be argumentative too in a relationship, although typically I'll save that for later. But I mean, you're going to adapt certain more masculine traits, and most men probably don't want to date like hyper masculine women and quarrelsome women. So.
But that's silly because they're looking at the income and they're seeing it as a proxy for all of those like perceived negative traits. And if that's like kind of an automatic no, like she can't be earning more than me because I know for sure she's going to adopt those like masculine traits and I'm not going to like that. That's what I'm criticizing. It's like, whether it's intimidation, insecurity, like just that kind of like ick factor is silly to me. Because until you get into it, until you know for sure that like, yeah, this person out-earns me. And I think part of the reason that they out-earn me is because they have these like dominant characteristics that I don't really vibe with. Then that's fair because I guess you gave them a chance. But to just be biased out from the start and disqualify them as like, no, I could never be with someone who out-earns. That's silly to me.
Well, he wants to provide for his woman. And he doesn't have the power if she's out-earning him. Yeah,
that's intimidation to me.
Well, the man's supposed to have that sort of power, that type of power in the relationship. That's like instinctual.
If that's what they want and they, I guess, deny themselves the opportunity to date somebody just on that basis alone, it's silly to me.
But we even have women who've come on the show, and I've seen examples of this, women who are successful high earners, but they still consider themselves traditional women. Mm-hmm. But the sort of traditional order of things typically was the man's the breadwinner, the woman, maybe she has a side, whatever, like a small thing, but he's the breadwinner and she takes care of the internal household. So you have these hyper successful women who make a lot of money, but they still look to the man to fall into his traditional roles when it comes to being a leader, perhaps being dominant and being masculine in the relationship. But that can potentially cause conflicts.
So what if she out-earns you just by a little bit, but she is like submissive and docile in like every other respect, and he still says, no, I'm not going to do it because I think maybe it'll lead to it, or like for sure just no, would you say that that's intimidation or insecurity?
I don't think it has anything to do with intimidation or insecurity. I think what men often find is women who are hyper-focused on their career typically tend to adopt character traits, which are perhaps not always, but
I said out-earns, not like rich. Just out-earns. Because she could be out-earning him at like a blue-collar job. Like if she's a nurse and he is a teacher, she might make slightly more. But that doesn't mean she's like grinding or whatever. It just means she's like,
well, those men,
pays more.
I think we can both acknowledge though that there are men who are probably totally fine with and who have no issue with their dating a woman who makes more money than they do.
Yeah, and I think that's like based. If they don't see that as an issue or as like an immediate like preference that they need to disqualify a woman for dating, then I think that's a good mindset.
And me personally, like I would not be intimidated by a girl who earns more than me. However, it could very well be the case that, again, not all women, but it could be the case if she does out earn me, then she's hyper focused on her career. She might have adopted certain personality traits that I don't want in a partner. So it's not about being intimidated. I'm just not attracted to like really hyper masculine women. So, but I agree with you. There can be super feminine women, but they're just killing it, and they're able to sort of compartmentalize to some degree between their relationships and their career.
Would you be comfortable with it if your partner out earned you significantly?
Me personally, I wouldn't care, but
would you judge a man for, like, I guess, looking at that as a metric to try to predict?
That's fine. In this, I think men can, because there's a huge cohort of women who want men to also be providers, and they don't want to contribute equally to the household income. So just in the same way that women are allowed to have that preference, men, certainly the men who don't want to date women who earn more than them, they ought to date women who earn less or who want to be stay-at-home wives. Like, it's just it seems to me like it's a mismatch of values. Those men probably tend to lean traditional. I think the issue is you have women who are these hyper successful boss babe types, yet in their relationship they still want the guy to be the leader. They want the guy to take initiative, do all these things. But in order for your man to be a leader, you need to be a follower. And I think a lot of women don't want to be followers in their relationship. Yet they desire traits, they desire leadership traits, but they don't want to be a follower.
Yes.
Do you think that, like, the boss babe types are the types who want a man to still be a leader? Or do you think they're completely fine
I would
being
argue,
the one in the relationship that kind of, like, wears the pants, so to speak?
I don't think typically, like, women are, I mean, even really successful women, they actually probably want even more masculine men to almost have to, like, they're super masculine, so they have to, like get someone who's super masculine, I guess. I don't know.
To, like, level it out.
Yeah.
I guess it's just weird. Like, I look at, women that I went to school with, or, like, friends of, like, I have 2 friends that are in law school right now, and, like, the idea that they would ever, like, struggle to find a partner, even with, like, all of their success, even if they're still demonstrating that, like, disability, I'm just saying, I think if that was the reason why they were having trouble, it would be silly to me.
It's not, I mean, a woman's career doesn't make her more attractive to a guy. Like, your success, your money does not make you more attractive to men.
People, I think, just end up dating within their socioeconomic backgrounds. For the most part.
Sure, for the most part.
Like what you're saying, like, I don't think a man would ever, like, I guess, look at like a super wealthy dude, but you're saying, like, oh, he might be dating, like, a Target employee or something like that. It's like, maybe he'd be open to it, but it's just not common statistically.
I think it's actually very common.
I agree with Brian. I agree with Brian.
All right, some common ground here. We got some common ground. All right.
Because high value men don't care how much their women make.
Yeah.
High value men don't care if you're freaking a janitor or a nanny.
They do care. They don't care if you don't make as much, but they care if you make too much.
They just want to make sure you don't.
But they care if you make too much. Yes.
That's what
I also agree with that.
No, it's not.
I don't think
it's
it
not
just
about the money.
depends on the
It's really not about the money.
Just because
it depends on the partner that you're with, literally.
Go ahead, finish your thought.
Just because of I've met some guys like that try to do it in the control aspect of, oh, I don't care what you do for work, so you're a Target employee, and then she's relying on him for money, you know what I mean? And then that goes sour, and then what? I can understand that part, right? But I can also understand, like,
it's not about the money. Like, if it's about one, kind of how you're going to be prioritizing your time. For example, if we're talking long-term dating, I assume at some point there's, if you want to have children, a woman who really prioritizes her career over having kids, that is part of the calculus of if a man's going to want to get involved with a woman.
So let's flip it. Do you think it would be reasonable for a woman to say, I actually don't want a really, like, financially successful and career-focused guy because I'm scared that he's not going to be there for me emotionally or to take care of his kids?
But I mean, that's sort of been the setup for time.
I know, in this hypothetical, though, for this woman, do you think that that's, like, ridiculous of that woman to make the assumption that because he's financially successful and career focused that he couldn't be a good father and a good boyfriend emotionally?
No.
You think that's fine, or you think it doesn't make sense?
Can you repeat it one more time?
Okay. You have a woman who is telling you that she's not interested in dating a man who is that financially successful or career focused, and like actually sees that as somewhat of a negative trait because she's worries that he's not going to be there to raise his kids and that he's not going to be there emotionally
Because he's too busy.
because he's too busy with his career.
Are you asking me if that would be a valid concern for a woman to have?
Yeah, do you think that makes
Or-
sense?
Yes.
Like, do you think it's possible for men to
Sure,
be
if
good
a-
fathers and also career focused?
Yes.
Okay,
Because-
why isn't it possible for women to be career focused and good mothers?
I didn't say that.
I'm
didn't
making
say
the
that.
assumption based off the reverse of it.
No, one has no connection with the other.
I
No,
didn't
because
say
you
that,
were saying
but
men would
there's
reject
a
women for making
biological
too much money because they would be maybe
Right.
too masculine, too career focused, and they wouldn't be able to be at home and do
Yeah.
like domestic duties.
Well, there's a first off, there's a biological difference when it comes to actually carrying a child and giving birth to said child. That's
you
a
don't
little
think
bit.
single fathers can be good fathers? As good of fathers as
You
like
are
a
really
single
putting.
mother?
I did not say that.
You didn't say it explicitly, but the things that you're saying are
Single
leading me to
fathers
assume
can be
that you
good
might think
mothers.
that.
I actually think single fathers typically do better than single mothers
Okay.
in raising children. So that's not what I said at all.
Okay.
But I'm not sure where the connection is coming from.
Okay, here's the thing.
This
Men
chick
and women
is
are
literally.
different.
This is like that Jordan Peterson interview with
Kathy
Kathy
Newman.
Newman on like BBC or whatever. So what you're saying is no,
Yeah.
that's not what I'm saying. How about
That's
the words
called
that come out
strawmanning.
the words that come out of my mouth is what I'm saying, and I did not say that.
Okay. Do you understand, Brian, that sometimes things that we say can have implications beyond what we explicitly
Yeah, but
say?
Yeah,
There-
when you argue with semantics of like the words that you pick,
This
you know,
isn't
it's literally
semantics. If you tell me
strawmanning.
I'm
That's
making-
not debating
I'm jumping
in
to
good faith.
conclusions, then fine, I jump to a conclusion.
No, you're just here to clip farm, literally.
Okay.
Like
Are we moving on? I don't know where to go from
straw
here.
manning. That's not really nice, you know.
Okay.
Look,
Sorry, I was being mean.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to be mean. I don't know.
like always with these like scenarios. Okay.
I'm trying to isolate variables and test like how far you go with it because it just in one respect you were willing
No,
to
you're
say-
arguing semantics.
You were willing to
Can I say something? So I had this sugar daddy in Texas, and he had like 3 baby mamas and 3 different kids with him. And he would literally, he was such a terrible father because he would always tell me how like, he was like, oh my God, my baby mamas do all the work, like bless them, because in the real world, like when I go home to the house, those kids are way too much for me to handle and deal with. And I'm so glad that I get to leave that house and go to my condo at the end of the night and sleep by myself. So it's like,
sad.
and he's like a very high, like he makes a lot of money, you know what I mean? And for me to hear that, I was like, ew, like you're a shitty dad because he buys the baby mamas like Teslas, and they all live on the same house, like all on the same street in a nice house and stuff like that. But it's just like at the end of the day,
His presence is gone.
yeah, his presence is gone and he's working, and that's kind of what she was saying, and that's why I was
Yeah.
putting that story in there, because I was like, wow,
It's
that's
like
crazy.
maybe he financially provides, but I think a lot of women would feel like there's something missing from their relationship and that's not going to be compensated for the fact that he's financially providing for them. If you don't have a partner who's there for you emotionally, if you don't have a partner who's there to be a present father, I think that's a disadvantage.
And not only that, but like think of their kids too, like, or
Like, I think women would take a man with a more modest salary who's more present in his kid's life than a man who is more
That's
financially
a totally
successful.
different fucking conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a totally different conversation. Your original thing was, men are intimidated by women who make a lot of money. It's a
They
totally
can
different.
be. Who out earn them, not who make a lot of money. That's different. I just said out earn. You can be both. You can both be in poverty. Okay, you can both make $20,000 a year, but maybe like he makes $20,000, she makes $25K a year. Or I gave the example of a nurse and a teacher.
Okay.